TN Prime, right, Ashley?
Definitely. We now want to engage Professor Kivutha Kibwana, who is the former Makueni Governor, Nuclear Lecturer, Daystar University School of Law. He's joining us virtually from South Africa. It's good to have you on board, Professor. I mean, just yesterday, you eulogized the former Prime Minister, the late Raila Odinga, as a freedom fighter, a defender of devolution, and the president Kenya never had. You equally say that he shaped our nation's destiny and defined an era. Kenya and ODM will never be the same. So let's start with this. Take us down memory lane to the first time you meet the late Raila Odinga. How was it for you? How was the experience?
Thank you very much for having me during this time of mourning and great loss for our country. And I would like to start by, passing my condolences to Mama Winnie, to Rosemary, and to Raila Jr., as well as the entire, family, friends, and of course, the ODM fraternity, and Kenya at large. Because whether, one ever, disagreed with Baba, with Ogwambo, with Jacom, or loved him very much, he strode our country like a colossus. And that is why there is so much grief in our country. I met Honorable, Raila Odinga at the University of Nairobi because he had a short stint as a lecturer in the Department of Engineering after he had finished his studies from East Germany. And I was a student during that time. But he didn't stay at the university for a long time because he, joined politics. And I followed him in that career, even as students, because, we were very much interested in his radicalism, and he attracted many students, even during those early days. We are talking about the 70s. But we were later to meet when I had also started to teach at the University of Nairobi, and he was agitating for the return of multipartyism. And again, that was the context within which we met, because first as students and later in my capacity as a lecturer and an actor in civil society, that was a major interest that we had of getting our country back on track, so that it would be a multi-party state. And subsequently, we again worked together in the constitution-making journey. And of course, I was in Parliament and was a minister. And 2008, when he was in the coalition government with Mzee Kibaki. Again, I was a presidential advisor. And so during that grand coalition government, we met again in terms of, working as he assisted Mzee Kibaki, who was president and he was a prime minister. And subsequently, again, as a governor, because first of all I was in CORD, I was in NASA and in Azimio. So during that time, again in Azimio, I had the distinct privilege of welcoming him to Makueni, because it took a bit of time before he came to the Lower Eastern region to campaign during the Azimio times. And actually the first time that he came to that region was when myself in Makueni, Ngilu as governor of Kitui and Mutua as governor of Machakos invited him to Makueni, and we began campaigns for Azimio in that region, and subsequently Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka was also able to, now vigorously join him in terms of the Azimio campaign. So there is a sense in which we have a long history, because places where he has been, some of the places, I have also had some presence there.
All right, Professor, I mean, you've talked about the different places he's been, and some of them you've been there. I mean, he embodied different personas depending on where you meet him. Considering you have seen both sides, Raila the politician, Raila the friend, talk to us about the different characteristics he had.
First of all, I think he was influenced significantly by his, I think about 8 years when he studied in East Germany, which by that time was, and continues, by that time, it was a socialist or communist country, and that is where he did his engineering, where therefore in terms of ideology he was able to embrace some of that ideology, and that is what led to, actually, when he came back to Kenya and also got involved in politics, that is what led him to be detained, first of all, from 1982 after the attempted coup d'etat, 1982 to 1988, that's 6 years. Then again, he was detained for, I think, 88 to 89. And even after some house arrests, again, 90 to 91, before fleeing to Germany in exile. So you can see during that period, that is Raila, who was quite, radical, who really thought that you must fight a system which is not right and then get it out and then, replace it. And I think he had that desire to lead the country, and probably like Nyerere, like Nkrumah, like some of those leaders introduced social democracy within Kenya, but of course he was not successful. Then there was the Raila who was a consummate mobilizer, who was able to attract a lot of following, who even in terms of initially the NDP party, and that eventually becoming, is getting into ODM after the referendum of 2005. So you get this person who actually, all the senior politicians, whether you talk about the current president Ruto before becoming president, they worked together in ODM, and so that when President Moi was able to begin Ruto's career in 1992, then Raila also helped the current President Ruto. So that really you can talk a lot about many people, whether it was at some point Musalia, Kalonzo, Wetangula. You can talk about most politicians kind of being able to, he would mentor them. They would be under his wings. And so there was that Raila who, shaped political careers of people, very generous in terms of helping them, even many governors like now Paranya, like now the deputy Mombasa governor, Jojo, and a lot, even younger people like Babu and Sifuna. So there was that element of him being generous in terms of wanting to build, people who would be involved in politics. Then you have Raila, who decides to change tact, and maybe after the detention, after realizing that it was not easy, for him to get to where he wanted, so that people could see how he could lead the country, he decides to lead from within. That is to work from within any existing government, and that is when you get Raila partnering, cooperating with Moi, President Moi, to the extent that he even got into New Kanu and was a minister of energy, was Secretary General of Kanu, and then you have Raila perhaps saying, the more I stay in opposition, I may not do certain things for people that have promised for a long time and who have supported me. So that now you get him trying to get some development, so to speak, for areas that have really supported him, and not just in his backyard, that is Luo Nyanza or Nyanza generally, but a lot of support, northeastern, a lot of support coast, a lot of support western, so that you have somebody who is actually over national characteristic, to the extent that one can say ODM up to now could be said the more of a national party than other parties, and that has endured, and that you can't take away from him. So this aspect of working also with Kibaki, and maybe even before saying that, in 2002, if Raila had not pulled the Saitotis, the Kalonzos, the Mudia Wari, all that crowd, if he had not pulled it out of Kanu, most probably Uhuru and Musalia would have won, because I think by that time Uhuru was 38, Musalia was, I think, 42. So Moi was thinking that I'm bringing this young tax now to take over from me, but Raila pulled all those people from Kanu, and his torture, people agree that it made easier for Kibaki to be president with over 60%. So there is also that Raila who will support others to get into power, and then try to work from within, because I think previously he had worked as an outsider, as an outlier, and maybe he realized that he didn't achieve what he wanted, and so he partners with Moi, he partners with Kibaki. And during that time, because I was an advisor to President Kibaki on parliamentary, constitutional and youth affairs, one can say that in terms of when Raila was Prime Minister, when Raila worked also in the docket of transport and infrastructure, a lot of the work that was done in that area really can be accredited to him. He was a good partner in terms of delivery, and of course there were issues, because I remember once being asked to write a paper by Mudaura, and this is not a big government secret, so I can say it in the open. I remember being asked to write a paper about who is bigger, the vice president, who was Kalonzo then, and the prime minister, and it was not an easy paper to write. And of course, politically, there was always issues of consultation, things being consulted and so on, when I was also a joint secretary of the Grand Coalition Government with Miguna, also on Raila's side. So there is that worker who, when really he has a task to do, you can trust him to do it. And I think that is also what happened when he went to AU as in charge of infrastructure and advisor on infrastructure and is trying to help AU, although AU is a difficult place, helping them in terms of countries, in terms of how to do infrastructure so that Africa is connected. So that also was something that he did, including, I think, there was a time there was a problem in Ivory Coast, and he was asked to go and mediate, So there was that Raila, and even I think in terms of family, because there were a few times that I visited and I saw at the family situation. Again, there was also that presence, of him. There I could see that on those few times that I visited. So I think he's really like what people say about him being an Enigma, a Guambo, Jacom, and all those things. It's many people wrapped into one, so to speak. And so even those who didn't kind of like him, and like the young people thought that when he went to be with the president, that was not the correct thing for him to do. People would think differently, but I think he had his way of doing what he wanted to do in life, and that is why I said, given his role in constitution making, particularly from Bomas through the referendum 2002 and even 2010, part of why the constitution was possible was there was an important meeting between him and Kibaki, and it was agreed that the 2010 constitution now, since in the Parliamentary Select Committee, Raila had been represented by William Ruto and Kibaki by Uhuru Kenyatta. So it was agreed that now the referendum should not be a contested referendum, and therefore, because of that kind of olive branch given 2005 referendum, that made it easier for the constitution to pass. And so, yes, people did disagree with some of what he did because he was a strong personality. Some people did disagree, others, agreed. But you can't take away his position in the country. That you can't take. And finally, maybe one could say, even the outpouring of emotion that we have seen, including, internationally, people who are condoling with family and with the country, and even the young people who are able to walk and get to Kasarani, and unfortunately, there was that very negative reaction from security forces. But those young people, and they're not just young people from Kibera, they are some of the young people who are on the streets 2023, 2024, 2025, and so that river of young people, I would worry it if I was in government, because it says that there are very many young people and very many Kenyans who really have lost, and that's why I said it's not easy to replace Raila at all.
Okay, and we'll talk about the young people and how they feel, but let's continue with Kenya's political history. I mean, it is often recounted in chapters: the struggle for independence, the one-party state, and the second liberation. I mean, from your vantage point, at what point in all of these chapters did the late Raila Odinga's presence mostly reshape our country's trajectory irreversibly?
Well, I think from the time that after coming back from exile, and even before that, before he was detained in 1982, he was still saying that we can't accept the one-party state, whether it is de facto from 1969, when KPU was when President Kenyatta proscribed KPU, Kenya People's Union, which was led by Mzee Jaramogi, and he continued to organize with others, of course, against the one-party system. In particular, 1982, when there was that attempted coup d'etat, there was a time he later, in one of his memoirs, kind of said that he knew about, what was happening. And so you could see that that was like some of the first time for him to say, we can't continue with this kind of dictatorship. But more critically, it was during the agitation for the return to multipartyism. And when it came to the formation of FORD, the original Forum for Restoration of Democracy, he was very instrumental and even acted as an officer, although Jaramogi did not want him to occupy big positions because he didn't want it indicated like there was favoritism. And even in FORD, he served as a deputy director for elections. But during that agitation for the return to multipartyism, and that is why even just before 1991, he had been detained the third time. So that is one area. The other area is when he came to work with Moi, they began, of course, under a lot of pressure because we worked together when there was the civil society and there was the opposition. During that time, we worked towards, pressurizing for the constitution so that we could have a people's-driven process of constitution making, and not simply for Parliament to amend the 1963 Constitution, which by that time had been amended for about 30 times. So he was very much, involved in that push when we were in civil society. Of course, he was also working with Matiba, later also with Nyachai, to push to see whether, they could, get a regime, changed through the elections. Again, when there were demonstrations, he was also very critical in terms of supporting those demonstrations in the particular 1997 and getting Akina Orengo, Akina, people like that, so that we worked together. That time I was in civil society and was the leader of the pro-democracy movement, NCC. So there was that valuable working together. And then when he goes to work with President Moi, that is when, through WACO, we began to get the first law, which would now say how we would change the constitution, and it was going towards now a people's-driven constitutional making system, so that it's not just Parliament doing it. And later, Joya was to take a court to case, which court said that there must be a referendum. You cannot just change the constitution or make a new constitution by Parliament alone. And therefore, the people came to Bomas. A lot of those were identified by Raila and President Moi those times. And even during that whole process of Bomas, Raila was a kind of a permanent fixture. And even in terms of recommending that Yash guy should come from, I think those days he was in UK, come and lead the constitution making process. I think that was a very, very important part of eventually making the constitution, because Professor Yash Guy, in terms of working in the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission, he really did fantastic work in terms of getting people to bring views a bit of civic education, getting even a bit of civil society people, the religious sector to work, even coming to Fungamano to argue for a merger of the civil society initiative and of the religious people with the parliamentary process. So you could trust Raila to be, in any place where real work was needed to push, to push things forward. And of course, one must admit that there was always criticism, like, why are you going to work with Moi? Why are you going to, support, governments which we think they are not fair? But maybe that was his idea of seeing whether he can influence from within. Because truth be told, both Jaramogi Odinga and Raila himself were always seen by the establishment as outsiders, as radical people, potentially who could lead in ways which did not favor the establishment, people of capital and all that kind of stuff. And so that is why he always struggled, I think, to become an insider, to get kind of accepted. And I don't think there was total acceptance. And that is why, perhaps I said, he was the president that we never had.
All right, Prof, I mean, you've talked about the fact that he supported others so that he could work from within, because he was on the outs for a while and he thought that he did not benefit. I mean, this ability to reinvent himself, because he's gotten so many challenges over these years, but he's always been able to overcome them in one way or the other. Would you say that is sheer political strategy? Is it selflessness? Or is it personal motivation?
Well, recently, of course, particularly young people have criticized him and have said that what he did in terms of coming to work with the current president meant that the changes that they wanted were, were stopped. But again, other people say that, according to him, there are situations when, like 2007-8, like now, currently, where he thought that it should be a stabilizing factor. So I think people will have, their points of view. And of course, the young people now, you are not completely happy. Like what they have done is also indicative of the fact that they are mourning him, but, they are saying that maybe they were shortchanged. And so, of course, I think from having like the two faces, the face of radicalism and seeing that he was not achieving what he wanted, and maybe he was working with people who are also not given to that radical trait, then, he decides that, let me see whether working from within will work. And of course, some people say he's trying to, also, protect himself. He's getting old. He's a bit tired of all these struggles without getting the result which he thought he would get. So people will continue to make those arguments for and against. And particularly young people, are completely persuaded that there was a chance that was lost, and they wanted, to send a clear message, probably like in Nepal, in now currently Madagascar, and the Arab Spring, and all those places. But maybe for Raila, he thought that the change that would be necessary in the country was, change which came in a peaceful way. There is some of what it will be very difficult to really know, because when you are dealing with an enigma, you may not really be able to know what motivated him to do things which sometimes people said, we don't expect that from him. And that is his complexity. And maybe those who are completely close to him could say, some of the motivations were what. But I think that if somebody has been this present in the country and even in the continent and has friends, all over the place in the world, like the Prime Minister of India was able to, to condole, there is something to such a personality. And if somebody has stayed relevant, all this time, and not many people stay relevant, that long, then, and even he disagrees with people and tells them off and calls them off, and yet, you find that they come to him again and work with him. So I have to, give him, his due in terms of saying that he was a permanent fixture on the Kenyan political scene, and we have lost, and it is not going to be easy to replace him, whether it is in ODM, whether it is in KKA Alliance. I'm sure, the president is wondering, given that Raila has exited, who will plug, that gap. I don't think it's going to be easy. And even, some of his supporters, it is not even easy to succeed him. And I guess that is why they said maybe his brother should hold on for a while as they think through. But it's not easy to succeed Raila. It is not easy even within the current government to get a Raila replacement. So, there is disarray in the political scene. And just like how we have seen this disarray in the morning, I think there's a deeper disarray in the political scene.
Trust KTN to keep on informing you on the latest, even as we send Raila Odinga, the late Raila Odinga, you give the late Raila Odinga a befitting send-off. Now we want to go back to having a conversation with Professor Kivutha Kibwana, who's the former Makueni governor. Professor, thank you very much for being patient with us. I mean, let's look at the 2010 Constitution, which is widely seen as the late Raila Odinga's greatest legislative triumph. As a scholar of law, what aspect of that Constitution do you believe will be Raila's most enduring legacy?
I think without even a lot of reflection, I can say one aspect that was really very important for him was the devolution aspect of the Constitution, so that there would be subnational governments, although a friend of mine, Professor Wanyande, doesn't like them called subnational governments. He prefers that just another government, like two levels of government. But the late Raila Amolo Odinga was very instrumental towards that kind of two tiers of government. Ultimately, although he had preferred strong regions, like I think 14 of them, and even this is something that he said subsequently, even recently, that we should have had, not very small counties where you can't do a lot of development, where a lot of money goes into salaries and operations and maintenance. So he was very strong in terms of advocating for devolution. And when Odhiambo passed on, who was the chair of the devolution committee, that really angered Raila, because he thought there was foul play. But I can say that that was a very strong aspect of the Constitution. Before, he had wanted a parliamentary system, and with even proportional representation, something that Professor Nyang' Nyong'o and Michael Chege also advocated a lot, and in terms of some of the advice and so on. But during the final stages of consensus building on the constitution, I think he was able to support a presidential system. But I know from earlier discussions and all that, he was very strong also on a parliamentary system with proportional representation, so that this winner takes it all is not a reality. And I guess even the pursuit of BBI, the pursuit of NADCO, were attempts to make sure that there isn't just one winner, and then people who have more or less the same votes, like in elections where the differences are like 200,000 or 300,000, and then whoever is first past the post becomes the leader, and all these other votes are not counted, so to speak. So I would say devolution and previously parliamentary system, and even when he conceded to a presidential system subsequently, he was always not very happy about that formulation. And actually, that is one aspect of Raila in terms of he could be a hard guy in terms of politics, but he also had that other aspect of him of conceding and making consensus, and often such consensus may not necessarily have favored whatever political position he was prosecuting. And that is why sometimes there's confusion about why push something so hard and then appear to relent. And so that is also why there is criticism. But he had that hard way of doing things, but also a soft way of doing them.
So then finally, does his death usher in a new dawn in Kenyan politics?
I think there'll be a period of confusion, because when, really a mover exits, there is confusion. I think there'll be some confusion in terms of who is to succeed him in ODM. I think it's not easy to really get somebody to fill his shoes, and there may be some jostling there. I hope that sense will prevail, and you get people who are really interested in now pushing the country to the next level, where we have democracy, we have freedom. Some of these things that have been happening become a matter of the past, like all these abductions and kids being killed and all that, even tear gas during the morning period. So that's the legacy that I hope that people will replace him, will know that they're replacing a giant. And even if they're not giants, try their best. Even within now the KKA government, I don't know, because Oparanya and Joe, who are deputy leaders of ODM, got into government. So they are not able to come back unless they resign or somebody resigns. So I think those are issues that are going to be discussed. But I hope that it would not be fair to talk about who will succeed him just now. I think it's important to just, first of all, with a lot of respect, rest him. And then those matters, because there is an acting party leader, those matters need a lot of wisdom so that they don't wreck the prestige of ODM as of now. And I really hope that part of what the successors to Raila will do will be to put this country on course in terms of democratic trust, in terms of, getting answers for all those young people who lost their lives, and really telling the president that, in honor of, Raila, we need to change course and, stop the undemocratic things that have been happening, and to really even get a national conversation about what is the direction, what is a proper direction, and particularly, you know, this youth unemployment, youth disempowerment. That is something that in Africa is a major thing, and so long as there isn't a definitive solution to it, then the youth will continue to be restive. And so, to honor Raila, I think the president should really focus on, like now, the draconian social media law. I think that's not a good thing at all, and it will not help. So I hope that we will reflect as a country and say that we need a different cause, and those who will come into leadership of, you know, ODM, to really help Kenyans to have a new thing. But again, I would like to, you know, to Mama Winnie, Mama Rosemary, Mama Raila Jr. and family, Oburu and family, and everybody, to really say, you know, Pole again. It is a huge loss, but you know, God plans for all of us, and you have lived with a great person, and those memories will sustain you. And just to say to the political people, not to just use this funeral and all that. People are competing to say that, you know, I was the one who is closest and all that kind of stuff, and I need this and I need that. Let us respect the departed and rest him, and then people can, you know, continue with business, but again, proper business, so that our country does not, you know, go go into like you know, failed state, captured state, and stuff like that. Let us kind of use this moment to rethink where to take our country, particularly leadership, and also, you know, to the young people, I would say, be strong. You know, be strong, and Kenya is for you.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Kivutha Kibwana, former Makueni governor, lecturer, Daystar University School of Law, for just making time to reflect on the life and times of the late former Prime Minister and ODM leader Raila Odinga. That is how we wrap things up here on KTN Prime, the end of our wall-to-wall coverage on this day. But remember, we pick up at 7 a.m. ahead of that state funeral service that will be conducted at Nyayo National Stadium from 9 p.m. Remember, mourners are required to be settled by 8 a.m. We'll be bringing you live pictures, so be sure to tune in to KTN. On behalf of the entire team, including Jesse Rogers and Preeti Janet, have a good night. I'm Ashley Mazuri.